When you were ending the summit in Glasgow, there was a bit of a tear in your eye. You also apologised for any disappointment. 6 months on, how does it feel now coming back?
Well, I think, Colin, what we got over the line was actually historic. We got almost 200 countries to agree to the Glasgow Climate Pact. My disappointment, as it was as such, was more about the fact that in those final few hours we'd not been as transparent, at least certainly it appeared we hadn't been as transparent as we'd been over the past year in terms of all the discussions that we had. But you know, it's been good to be back here and to set out where we've got to with 6 months to go. We have made progress. We've had countries come forward with more emission reduction targets, with adaptation plans. But as I said today, here in this speech, what we need is for that pace to quicken. And ultimately, it's up to world leaders to deliver.
Because you're not happy with where we are yet, are you?
No, I think the pace is too slow. We need to quicken that pace. I mean, we had 120 world leaders who came here, who made heartfelt, emotional speeches about why we needed to collectively tackle climate change, and they made promises, and those now need to be kept.
War in Ukraine has presumably delayed things. It's had an impact.
Well, undoubtedly, Putin's illegal and brutal invasion of Ukraine has meant that the focus of very many world leaders is, of course, on this immediate crisis that we have. And all our thoughts are with the brave people of Ukraine. But nevertheless, as I said in my speech, the reality is that the threat of climate change is chronic, it's not going away, and it's why we need to make sure that we redouble our efforts so that we deliver on the Glasgow Climate Pact.
Would you support a windfall tax on North Sea oil and gas company profits just now?
Well, if you look at the North Sea oil and gas companies that we're talking about, a lot of their profits are, of course, generated outside the United Kingdom. They also have a headline tax rate of around 40%, which is higher than other companies. And a number of them said that they will invest billions of pounds in our energy security, in clean energy. But what I'm very clear about is that we can't have suggestions of what might be spent over the next few years. What we need to see is a plan, quarter by quarter, every 6 months, every 9 months, every year, of where that money is going to go. And
you could do that as a government by having that windfall tax, not necessarily to help with the cost of living, that's for the government to deal with, but you could do it to then, as a government, invest in renewable energy.
Well, as I said, I mean, I personally always feel that we shouldn't, as a principle, be going down the road of retrospective taxes. Nevertheless, we are a pragmatic government, and we've been very clear. We need to see this investment going in, and if it doesn't go in, I think, as the Chancellor said, all options are on the table. We're a pragmatic government.
So there could still be a windfall tax, and you would back that?
Well, as I say to you, what I want to see is those very detailed plans of investments in our energy system, in clean energy and renewables, and we need to see that on a quarter-by-quarter basis. We're going to have to reflect and see, if that doesn't happen, what the response is. But as the Chancellor said, and I very much agree with him, all options are still on the table.
Because of soaring prices of gas and oil, we've had Cambo, talk of Cambo being renewed, talk of Jackdaw. Do you think those are fields that should be developed?
Well, I think what we've been very clear about and consistent about is that what we want to see is a managed transition from fossil fuels to clean energy. And actually, that's what our energy security strategy has been all about. In terms of new licenses, we've again been entirely consistent. There will be a climate compatibility checkpoint which will be introduced, and that has to be consistent in terms of any future licenses that are granted.
I'm not disputing your consistency. Do you, as COP President, think they should go ahead?
That has to be consistent with the legal commitments that we've made on tackling climate change.
What I'm asking you is, as COP President, do you think those oil fields and gas fields should be developed?
Well, as I said to you, what we're talking about here is a transition. And that's what we've set out in our energy strategy, energy security strategy, very, very clearly. We are looking at increasing the amount of offshore wind 5 times, increasing solar by 5 times.
It doesn't answer the question about whether you think Cambo and Jackdaw should go ahead.
Well, those are decisions that are being made and will be made independently. What I would say to you is that those are licenses that have already been granted. They will be moving through, there's a process for moving them through to next stages. The key point for me is what happens in terms of future licenses that are granted. And that's why it's very important that we're going to be introducing this climate compatibility checkpoint.
6 months out from the next COP summit in the COP27 in Egypt, do you think Boris Johnson will still be Prime Minister then?
I'm absolutely confident Boris Johnson will be Prime Minister. He will lead us into the next general election, and I fully support him.
And do you support what he's doing in Northern Ireland at the moment with potentially suspending the protocol, trying to change the deal, trying to change an international treaty?
Well, if you look at the Northern Ireland Protocol, it's not working as it should be. We've got a position where effectively there is now a two-tier system. You have people in Northern Ireland not being treated the same as the rest of the United Kingdom. We are one United Kingdom. What we want to ensure, and we've said this all along, and we've been negotiating for about 16 months on this issue with the EU, what we want to ensure is peace and stability in Northern Ireland. The Prime Minister is there today. I would recommend people listen very closely to what he says. However, the protocol makes very clear in Article 16 that there is an ability for either the EU or the UK to take unilateral action if they don't think the protocol is working properly.
Given that you've got the backdrop of the war in Ukraine and you've got the global cost of living crisis, can you accelerate progress in keeping 1.5 alive over the next 6 months in the run-up to COP27?
I think we have to. It is an imperative that we do so, and that's why I set out the case in my speech today, that world leaders made promises, they now need to deliver.
Alok Sharma, thanks for joining us in Scotland tonight.
Thank you so much.